Thanks, Deanna. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I just want to say it's an amazing crowd. I'm very pleased that you're all here. Can everybody hear me at the back? Okay, that's great. I'm going to be reading tonight from He Leaves His Face in the Funeral Car. I'm going to invite my charming partner, Chris Fox, up to hold this mic because I cannot actually turn pages and read and hold the mic at the same time.
And I'm an experienced mic holder. I've done it.
She actually has done this before.
It looks so natural.
Yes. So natural.
So you're going to get the calibration.
No, I understand. We're happy to do it.
I just didn't want to take the trouble to do it for everybody. So.
No.
Oh,
well, that's much easier.
It's my banner.
No, thank you. I don't have language. Perfect.
Thank you.
There we go.
That's great. As much as I enjoy having Chris, this is a lot better. So I will be reading for about 20 minutes, just to let you know. I'll read, the first poem I'm going to read is called He Leaves His Face in the Funeral Car, and it gives its title to the book. Back seat of the funeral car, our father's second wife tells me I should have called. Her 4 daughters, whom I hardly know, avert their eyes. My own sister sits beside me, shoulders squared, while our father leads in the hearse ahead through this curse of afternoon traffic to his own cremation. My mouth is set, a steel handle on an old dresser drawer. My face, which is my father's face, glides windowed by, given back against the passing leaves, feathered bitter, feathered sweet, this time of year. My father, leading us, leaves his money in 3 awkward thirds, leaves my girlfriend, his tuxedo pants, leaves his Jesus Murphy and his Hell's Bells, along with his joke about patio furniture, which no one ever found funny, and his rage, which I claim, he also leaves, and his tie rack inlaid with red and black squares. His face, too, he wills me for as long as I need, his tempered jaw, his burnt blue eyes. As Deanna said, I worked for 2 decades in Vancouver in social services, and my job at that time was with health, mental health, and part of it was to drive out to the provincial institution called Riverview and talk to people who were ready to leave the institution and move into the community. The next 2 poems are from that time. For the record, Anna Probin, 16, escapes her father's hands through the admissions door of Essendale, stays on the lock ward 60 years, forgets every word she ever learned. Claudia Clyde, 32, leaves a downtown hotel through a 7th-story window, leaves 3 haranguing voices in the room, her legs on the sidewalk. Shirley Oaten, 47, crosses First Avenue against the red light, looking straight ahead, handbag in hand, transistor radio somewhere at the bottom, 3 lanes of traffic, fingers burnt orange, makes it to the middle. For the record, Anna's handshake was a silken flag. Sandra Baxter, 29, places herself on her boyfriend's sofa, switches on the electric carving knife, holds it hard against her throat. Boyfriend out for a pack of cigarettes, a bag of taco chips. Paul Needham, 23, crosses 2 highways, Riverview to the Portman Bridge, leaves the Portman Bridge at the upper crest, drops 30 stories, water like cement. Shirley strode through time like a northern elk. Her brother did not attend the service. Paul Needham, sweet-faced, moved through the wards like the Paraclete. Jane Poole, 35, refuses food, loses hair, loses friends, loses teeth, loses kidney function, loses heart. For the record, unofficial, everyone lost heart. Her name was Anna, and you should know that she shook my hand, having just been introduced, and this social work ritual so foreign to her, that she tried to smile, though shy as a mole, having no reason to trust, that she stood in house slippers midday and wore a cotton house dress that zipped up the front, though she lived in no house, that the doctors said she was ready for discharge, though she had stayed in the place 60 years, that the walls in the halls of this hospital were hospital green, and all the doors were locked at all times, that the orderlies wore keys round their belts, so many they sounded like bells, that she slept in the same dormitory room for 60 years, with the same 40 beds lined in the same measured rows, that the TV could leer, could observe, oversized and high-cornered in the common room where 40 patients sat in folding chairs placed round the four walls, or paced in straight lines or in circles, sometimes crying out. You should know that her mother died when she was 16, that they brought her here to this place the same year, looking 12 with her buster brown hair in the small black and white, taped to the cover of her thick patient file. That she was just a girl that spring day in 1921, smiling for the camera, despite her mother's death, despite the stone buildings and the tall wooden doors, despite the primary reasons the doctor listed that day for her admission, that she had allowed her father to molest her. You should know that this story is true. After sudden rain, droplets light the mid-pane of my bedroom window. Only that pane, the rain that fast, precise. Beyond the window, hydro wires bisect the maple tree, whose tips thin out to red. Beyond the maple, a quarter rainbow clichés the sky. The cliched sky rummages between violet and green. Sun surprises the eye, dries the sidewalk, saturates the buds on the viburnum. Cars flash chrome, doors yellow. A man leaves his house in orange trousers. White trim partitions one house from another. A small dog at the end of a leash. A child in a pink hat. The street washes itself in detail, almost too much clarity, optimism. To say the street below approximates perfection is to celebrate the imperfect. To say the line of rooftops reaches towards infinity pins the eye to the horizon. Tell me, is the desire for originality original sin? Wanting all things new again? But who can help it? Who refuses paradise when sunlight hallelujahs after sudden rain? I wrote 4 poems about the 4 elements in this book, and they're scattered throughout. This one is called Fire. In the beginning was fire, not water, not stone, not rosy finches or breath, flatworms or primordial slime, but fire. The unsolvable void, gaseous, scarlet letters, Arabic script, blue and orange blaze, explosive, cosmic, sharp-scented heat, infinitude, trails, tongues, tails, all things flammable. When we say starry night, we mean fire. When we say sun, fire, we mean billowing. When we say hearth, we mean home. My son slept in the basement deep as a wintering bear. He was 17. So, when the house caught fire in April, he didn't wake, could not be aroused. His father carried him out in his arms, through flames and smoke thick as London's old fogs. What if? Don't say, what if? If we say alarm, house, fire, barn, horses, oil fields, forests, underground root systems on the ridge above Jarvis Inlet, irrepressible, consecutive summers, catching again and again, black timbers, black bones. When we say first causes, we mean spark, belly, headlong. We say heart, mean love. The all-combustible word swelling away from itself. We mean everlasting. The difference between fire and stone is a handful of sand. The difference between fire and flesh. The difference my son carried out between fire and flesh. And so this next poem is about dust, which is the poem about earth, of course. It's called In Nomine Dust. Breathe it. Commit it to memory. Dust. Its genus, its everyday, and its other names too. Cinders and sand, hair, crusts of bread, all collapse in one direction. Conjugate dust's provenance, particulates, formal and vernacular, everlasting de molecularum, cosmologies of dust, religions, philosophies, all list that way. Names written on earth. Omega dust and alpha, dust freed from tombstones and tabletops, from seed pods wilding on wind, in jubilation, evidence of what remains. Interstellar, but born also of city soot and the discarded skins of snakes, trapped too in bands of sunlight, adagio, murmurous motes shining gloriosa through the morning slats. Collect its human names, in particular the dying and the dead, its given names. Adelaide and Celestine, for example, Felix and Seraphim in the cemetery in Dorval where I grew up. Each name falling from the bone. As in graveyards in Moose Jaw and in Salt Lake City, in mausoleums, crematoria, in tombs on the Nile. Memorize them, found and multitudinous. They are the names of dust. In Notre Dame in Ottawa, where my father rests, the dust there is known as James and as Agnes, Lazare, Thomas, Marie Blanche. In the same way, the firmament, gold dust, light years, dust of thunderclouds, dust under camel hooves, under basement stairs, in the vaults of old banks, catacombs, the dust of self. Dust to dust, endless, even in this, the poem's amplifying chamber. endlessness, having entered time and all these words. Know it in its aggregations, in calm for the peace it brings, and in malevolence for its harm. Dust bowls, for instance, the term for prairie storms, pulvis infidelis, the swirl of weary earth fleeing without escape, filling plates set out for dry-eyed children, sacramentus, their mouths filled with its profane name, its everyday, their teeth, their hair packed with it, their elders choking, its daily wine against the children's narrow shins. Know it as it forms the nucleus of raindrops, centralis, innocent, first grace note of snow. It forms the core of our becoming, separate and in chorus, in gratitude, cradle, coffin, us and them and dust. The long decay, prolonged from early days, the coming apart of ordinary bodies ending as they start, insects and epidermis, this dry, soft, downy desiccation into future. All names are dust, far-fetched, formal, everyday, incantations. I include my own, and the names of my children, coming apart under the speckled sky. We are cradles, graves, floating this froth of stars, thinking ourselves whole, but knowing ourselves particulate, in pax vobiscum, essential grit. I'll end with this poem that actually changes the mood so you can go home feeling a little bit better. That's my best. 9 reasons to prefer the pear. A single longing teardropped from its stem, almost lost in yellow leaves. 3 upright in a bowl. The bowl is blue. The air slows as though they were breathing. Paired on a plate, their blushing skins side by side. For company, 2 knives. Mothers-in-law prefer pears to plums, such snobs, but they do know their fruit. More than 6 is too many, unless they're poached in wine. In wine, no number is too many. A pear is not hurried. A pear is not fooled. Unlike an orange, a pear knows which end is up. Pears hide their stone cells close to their core, a cool gravitas. In water, apples float. Pears swoon beneath. Pears belong in porcelain, as do tulips. Bananas belong in lunch bags. Pears on purple silk. When an apple is offered, it comes with caveats. When a pear is offered, red Bartlett, Anjou Forel, can love be far behind?